Hi, I'm Shannon from houseimprovements.com. For those of you who've been following along at home in our video series on this cabin build, you know that it's been quite the project. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how to insulate the exterior walls. So most of you will already know that we framed this cabin with 2x6 exterior walls, 16 inches on center. So that means we'll be installing some R20 batt insulation, 15 inch by R20. There's lots of different products. We're not sponsored by these guys or anybody. This happens to be the product I'm putting in. There are other insulating manufacturers, obviously, and you can use their product, and they all kind of install the same. If you're installing rock sole or rock wool insulation, you'll want a serrated blade knife. It'll make your life a whole lot easier for that type of product. Now we're just using the old standard pink insulation here. We're going to be adding another 1.5 inches of rigid foam insulation on the outside, so we're going to have lots of R value. So I decided to save a little bit of cost and use pink insulation over rock wool. So one of the first things you're going to want to do, obviously, figure out how much insulation you need, go pick it up, and get going. You can see I've already started on a little bit of this. One thing you want to remember is to place your batts. So if there's any writing on them, place that writing to this side so inspectors can see it. Usually it'll have the R value on it, so they can easily see behind the poly once it's vapor barriered what R value of insulation you've actually installed without opening the wall up. Another good idea is to go around and clean out the area, like the bottom of the wall cavity. Just clean it out, give it a quick vacuum, quick sweep, whatever it takes. Just get rid of any sawdust and bits of wood and that sort of stuff that's in there. Just makes for a neater, cleaner job. So we're going to get going here. Really, all you need is a tape measure, utility knife. I like these knives for batt insulation because you can stick lots of blade out and get a nice easy cut. So make sure you have a couple extra sharp blades. Like I said, if you're using rock sole or rock wool, whichever way you want to call it, you'll want a blade that's serrated, and honestly, an old bread knife out of your kitchen drawer will work just as good as anything. The other thing you might want to have is a face mask, like a dust mask, and that'll just stop any of the little fibers from getting inhaled into your throat, because after a day of doing this, you might not think that there's much floating around in the air, but there really is. So I would normally have a mask on while I'm putting it in. I won't for this little bit of the video just because it's actually cold in here. I don't know if you can see my breath here, but I'll be all fogged up and won't be able to see nothing. Some people that are maybe irritated by insulation a little more will want long sleeves and maybe even some eye protection. Again, just to keep your eyes and arms and that from getting irritated. So let's get this bundle opened up. The easiest way to do this is take your blade, because there's a lot of batts in here. What's in this bag? There's 16 pieces in this bag of this particular size of insulation. So they really compress it down into this small bag. It just helps in shipping costs and all that stuff. So just kind of drag it out into the middle of the room. Take your blade, cut up the middle on one end, down the middle on the long side, and up that way. And it just magically grows out of that bag. Just like so. And you can see it's not always consistent in thickness, especially once you first open the bag. You can see even side to side, one edge is a little thicker than the other. It will continue to expand a little bit, but if it's really flat, just give it a little bit of a stretch just to help it come out. I like to start at the very top and then measure and do my cuts from the bottom up. So this space here is a normal regular space of 16 inches on center. The insulation is going to be 15 inches. And we're just going to take it and gently slide it into the cavity. Butt it up to the top here. Don't pack it up. Just make contact and then just a little bit of extra pressure. And then just gently push the edges back in so they're just behind the surface of the wall. The more you pack it in, it actually takes away some of the R value to a certain point. So you want to try to keep it as fluffy as you can. Okay, so we've got that one there. Now in the corner, that is still a normal space. It's actually half an inch smaller, but it'll still work fine for this purpose. So you got to kind of, because it goes back in the corner here, and I'll bring the camera and just show you after. But you need to kind of get that piece back in there and started. Just reach back and make sure with your fingers that that goes all the way to the back in there, and you haven't just crumpled it up into a big lump. Get this edge all looking nice. And then I usually take my knife, because there's a bit of blocking here. I just kind of score down here, going about an inch into the insulation. So that this edge can kind of puff out here a little bit. Just give it a little pull, a few spots just to get it out and filling in nice. You want to make sure you got no gaps along the sides or tops or anything where the insulation isn't touching the wood. So I'll just bring you over so you can get a little closer look. So this is that corner, and got framing back in there. So just trying to get you in around there. And while I've got you up this close, just bring you around so you can see how it kind of looks. There's a joint right here between two pieces. Okay, so as we come around the corner here, I've got a space that isn't full size anymore. So a lot of times I'll just use my knife, I'll extend it out and use that to measure what I need. So you kind of want your space plus another half an inch, 3/4 of an inch for this type of insulation. So now I've got my knife kind of set to the size I need, and I can grab my batt of insulation, walk over to a surface, eyeball it up, get a mark, get a mark, get a mark. So that just gives you a guideline of where to cut. Now I marked it right where my knife was, which was the actual width of the wall, the stud space. So then I just cut down beside those guideline marks. Okay, and I get my piece like that. We've got our poly on the ceiling already in this room, so that's what you're seeing there that's hanging down in my way. Okay, get it up a little too tight, just give it a little tug on the bottom. Get it down where you want it. And my next one is a regular face. I'm kind of sticking my fingers in beside the batt, like back in here. and just say an inch or so from the back edge or thereabouts, so I know that I'm pushing that insulation back and getting some contact with the sheeting behind it. Fluff out the front and you're good. And I forgot to turn that one the right way. The odd one here and there isn't going to really matter. They're not going to call you on that. But as long as you got the majority of them facing out so that they can see that you're, putting in the proper thickness of insulation for the wall that you're dealing with, it should be fine. So again, I've got one here that I'm going to measure, or that I've measured. I'm going to put a bottom piece in. Now, height-wise, what I normally do is I just stand my batt, on the top or on the bottom plate and bring it over to where I am. And as long as I'm an inch of overlap or less, then I call that good enough. Okay, so I shouldn't have to cut the height any. I do have a wire here, so I really, if I can help it, I really don't want to just stuff that batt in behind that wire or in front of it, because again, right in that spot, you're going to have compressed the insulation, and you're not going to have as good of insulation value right there. So what I'll do is I'll just take and split my piece about in the middle. The wire's usually in the middle, and then I'll slide this first half down in behind the wire. That. It's working it along. Put it a little higher. There we go. Get my first half all situated down there. Get this top sitting where I want it. Make sure it isn't bunched up around my wire. And then I just fold this flap down and get it in place. So now my wires, I haven't manipulated my wire any, and I'm trying to get the best bang for my buck out of the insulation by not compacting it all over the place around that wire. Right? Because if you just took a piece and fed it in behind here, whatever, and put it in there, now you can see I've got a gap here where it's held back, and right there is going to be a compressed area that's going to let some cold or heat transfer through a lot easier. So here I've got the wires. I've not only got the wire horizontally, I've got a loop coming down, and I've got the electrical box here. So again, I'm just going to stand my batt down here by my box to get an idea where it is. And I'm going to mark it with my knife. Now, I don't want to cut that hole. See how I've got this rectangle kind of marked out here? I don't want to just cut that and rip that whole thing out, because there's space in behind my box, right? So I want to leave some insulation back there. So I'll cut back. I usually won't quite go halfway. I just kind of trace around that with my knife and pull some of that out. Okay. So I've now got this bit of a void there, so it doesn't super pack right in that area. And I'm going to split my batt. This is where you start getting all the fibers in the air, so if I start coughing a bit, don't worry. It's just insulation killing me. Okay, so you can see here's the piece that doesn't have any kind of cutout in, because I flipped that up out of the way. Now I need to feed this in behind. Just take a bit of time. Sometimes you got some nails sticking through that plywood from outside for whatever reason. And that can be a bit of a pain in the butt too. So just try not to destroy the insulation. Just getting it in there so we can get this where we want it. Okay. So there, you can see there's my wires all back in there, safe and sound. Now I cut my hole a little bit too tall. So I've got my chunk here. I can cut a bit off and fill that hole in. Every little bit helps, right? Okay, so we got that patched in. Make this look a little better down here. Make sure that joint is nice and closed up. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. Here's another one here where we need to cut it, right? So in this case, it's bigger than my knife, so I can measure that if I want. The tape measure. See, it's longer than my knife. I can measure it, or I can just take my bat over there, put it against one side or the other, and then make a cut to mark the size that you want. Okay? And then I'm just gonna lay it on the floor. And after you do it a bit, you can pretty much eyeball that type of cut. Okay. So now we've got our piece, and again, we've got a wire in the way. So I'm going to split this piece. Okay. Just kind of go careful with it. Sometimes it doesn't completely tear right down the middle like you'd hoped it would. Just kind of go easy and manipulate it to what you need. Get it tucked behind the wire. Pull it down. You can see as I pull down, it kind of bunches up on that wire, so then I just push it back. I just don't want it to get all torn off or ripped up there. Okay, put that front down. Get this front piece all in there nicely. Okay, and that piece there doesn't quite make the top, right? Does it? Let's see. No, it's going to be a little short. Pull that back down. Okay, so we're missing that little bit there. We happen to have some chunks and cut-offs. This piece here is going to work out all right. Just held it up and measured it. I've got about an inch and a quarter space there. I've got about a 2-inch piece here. That'll just sit in there nicely. Put it in there. Voila. Okay. So now you're going to have inevitably some of these spaces, like I don't even know what this is, maybe an inch wide. So it's pretty tight. So you just got to kind of do the best you can with this. Or you can take some spray foam and spray foam that gap. And that's probably what I'll do. I don't have any with me, but I think I'll just spray foam that entire opening there just because it's so narrow. And with the spray foam, I can get it back in there and get it done quite nicely. Now, if you want to use the batt insulation, if you got about an inch, cut it about 1.5 inches, 2 inches wide. And you're going to have to just take it and push it in there. It's not going to be the best. Kind of use your knife, or if you have a red bar with you, flat bar, you can kind of push it back in there. This spot's pretty tight. But you can kind of work it back in there. The trouble with this is you're for sure compacting it, and you really don't know if you got it to the back fully or not. You know, like I'm getting it in there, but I probably could have cut it just a little narrower. But it just really probably not even giving you any R value by the time you put that in there. So I'd rather fill anything that's like an inch or less, I'd rather fill it with spray foam. So that's what I'm going to do there. Like I said, I just don't have any with me. So that's really about all I can really show you. It's not rocket science at all, but it needs to be done correctly. And the key thing is getting it in there so it has contact all the way around, you know, every surface sort of thing, but yet it's not too compacted in there. So it's a bit of a juggling act until you kind of get figured out what exactly is going to work for your situation. Like I said, having a can of spray foam with you would be a good idea. It was just a little cold today, so I didn't want to bring any with me. We'll catch that before it gets polyed. So I do appreciate you watching. Please click the thumbs up. Like I said earlier, we've got a ton of videos on this project covering many aspects of building this whole entire cabin. And I think they're well worth checking out. So go and check those out on the channel. Leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one.